Yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Tim Keys, and I'm back. I wanted to talk about Synplant 2 and go over, just a basic overview of this plugin, all the features or most of the features, and do the best I can to cover it. We'll get started. So, Synplant 2 came out a couple months ago, and it's been making quite a buzz. Now, the first Synplant was pretty unique as a synth because of its feature set and how it generated its sounds and its unique user interface. And I mean, picking your patches, depending on what you pick, you get these interesting responses as you mess around with the mod wheel. Right off the rip, you have the ability to make changes to atonality, which is detuning, standard tuning, your effects, how much of your effects you want shown, volume, release. You can set the polyphony here in terms of mono, legato, and you can do your glide. Here, you can set up your mod wheel to make adjustments depending on what you set it at. So your effects, volumes, LFO, FM, envelope, filters, and so forth. And then you can do the velocity sync off or on and how much you want. So a lot of stuff is right there on the front, just for you to have that immediacy, if you will, of playing with your VST. This patch right here is called Broken Dreams. It is very loud. Definitely a more soundscape-ish type patch. It's an ensemble-based patch. Do a couple of these. I guarantee you somebody's gonna say, you're using this wrong, and that's okay. It's got some decent patches, but again, a lot of this is going to depend on like what you're trying to make music for, what your goals are, and what you want to do. Bass. Bulbous bottom. I kind of like that. All right, let me stop. All right, so there's bulbous bottom. All right, do a couple more of these. I'm using a demo, so I want to throw that out there too. I think the demo is fairly generous. I think they give you 30 days. I've had this on my computer for more than a month or so, and yeah. The patches are definitely more like for your EDM space. So if you don't mind that, then you should be fine. In terms of, your traditional sounds, this is not going to do that. It can. It definitely can give you traditional sounds in terms of, your standard plucks and, your leads and pads and whatnot. But this is meant to go further beyond that into different, territory. Definitely ways up. All right, so let's go under the hood, because that's where you're gonna be able to see like all of the stuff in terms of how this thing works. When you open up this menu at the top right here, manipulated genes, it has a very interesting, as you can see, setup for visuals. But they give you 3 screens, and the first screen I'm on is my envelope, LFOs. So you got your first 3 right here, your basic standard envelope. This, it seems like, as I've been messing around with it, is more closely related to like your amplitude envelope, attack, decay, sustain, release. But it has some parameters. It's very different. Here you have your key filter envelope. So as the higher you go up, you're gonna make different sounds. It's gonna impact your filter differently the higher you play up and down the keys. Here you have your volume envelope, and it's gonna change, the attack, sustain, and all of that stuff. And then here you have your modulation, and pardon me, depending on how you adjust this, you're gonna hear different changes to your sound. And then you have your LFO, the amount. The balance, and the delay. That's pretty much the gist of it in a nutshell. Going to the second menu here, you have your oscillators, and they're pretty much standard. You have your sine wave, triangle, square, sawtooth, square pulse, etc. Noise, how much noise you want to influence the sound, color. So you can change the character of your noise. And then you got the mod right here. So how much of what you set here will impact what's going into here. So that's first oscillator. Then you have your FM amount, which again will play on what you set up here, your modulation envelope, FM mod, FM amount. So the FM synth engine is pretty straightforward, simple to use, but you can do a lot with it based on how it's correlating with this envelope right here. Then, yep, there's all of that. Self-explanatory. Then here you have a second oscillator, oscillator B, your noise. Then you have the sub oscillator, sample and hold, adjusting the pitch of oscillator B to oscillator A, and then you have the B mod envelope, which again does the same thing that this does, but only for second oscillator. So even though you only got so many waveforms in terms of what's traditional, being able to implement and modulate those waveforms through FM and so forth, you can definitely get some cool tones out of it right out the gate. And it's relatively simple to use, especially once you get past like the interface. Once you come over here, you have your filter and effects, which is, you have your filter type, which is pretty interesting. It says between bandpass, dual, serial low pass, and parallel low pass, and notch. So all of that in one filter. And then you have your resonance here. You can separate the filters here. And then how much of the filter modulation is happening here, or how much, not filter modulation, how much of the modulation is going to impact the filter. Pardon me here. Filter frequency, and then your filter key, like most synths. Then you got your saturation, your reverb is here, chorus amount, size amount, damp, right, length, all your basic stuff right here. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Again, you got to experiment and work with this stuff to see what you like, and then go from there. Now here's the other deal that was kind of like a big deal that people kind of tripped about in a good way. People were excited about being able to take, different samples and sounds, and then you can load them up and thus create new sounds. And, it's using AI to do that. And so basically what you do here, I'm going to load up my sound real quick. I'm going to pause. All right, so I loaded up my sample. Got something random. I'm going to play it. Let's see. I got to see what that does. Correct tuning. Now I'm going to generate a patch. All right, I picked the most random sound to see what would happen when I loaded this up in here and what it would derive out of that patch. Let's see. All right, I kind of like that. Okay. I wonder if it took the noise that was in the background as I recorded that sample and amplified it and adjusted the pitch on its own. That's pretty cool. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that, but that's pretty cool. Let's see. Let me go back here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I definitely have some creative ideas that came as a result of that. And I think it's certainly a handy feature. I don't know if it's super duper groundbreaking like everybody's making it out to be. However, it is dope that you can just do it. That's really cool. Yeah, that's really neat. And I mean, I got some ideas. On the other hand, what this kind of reminds me of, this feature, and although it's probably implemented a little bit differently as far as I can tell, it reminds me of Absent 4 and its ability to like generate patches. You have a patch and then you can hit the random generate button and it can come up with different patches. If you don't like it, you can kind of go from there and make adjustments. Sometimes it will come up with totally different patches unrelated to like the tonal qualities of what you have loaded up. It's a great feature. And so this being like available to the public now, you kind of have something that can provide that feat, in a similar fashion, although done very differently. All right, so yeah, man, I'm 13 minutes in. I'm not gonna be here all day, but let's hit this button. Let's see what happens. Let's see what it gives. Basically, from what I can tell, it's doing is it's taking my sample, and as it runs it through, the VST, it's making adjustments basically within the VST itself. Like, so it might be adding some effects to it. I can definitely hear a reverb in there where it wasn't before. I can hear, in some cases, sounds like it might be some FM being added to it, some different modulations taking place. That's pretty cool. Like right there. And then as you pick one, because I didn't change those. All right, let me get off of this because y'all gonna be like bored. So let's go back here. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to depend on what you put into it, and then yeah, that's going to determine. That's going to have a great impact on the outcome. One thing to keep in mind is, when you add in samples to it, you know, I can see people trying to use this as a easy sample maker. Yeah, this has its own can of worms. Yeah, keep that in mind. Derivative works versus like all of that good jazz. I ain't gonna go down that road. Anyhow, getting back into it, I think this is a great plugin. Um, the interface is very engaging. Once you get past everything, it's pretty straightforward in terms of what's underneath the hood. I like how they roll everything out. The the ability to take samples and create different variations from them, I think that's really really cool. And you can do some neat stuff with that. Circle back into it, bounce it out, and then make more patches and see what you come up with. There's some good patches in here, you know, but I ultimately think that in terms of if you're looking at this as a just a plug-in and using it for its presets, that part will just boil down to what you prefer and what you don't prefer. So if you're an EDM person, you like ambient music and stuff like that, I think you'll feel right at home with a plugin like this. If you are someone that is more into like you're looking for like acoustic sounds and things of that nature, you're not going to find that here right off the rip, but you can kind of get close approximations if you're willing to program and all that stuff. You can do a lot with FM and simple subtractive synthesis if you know what you're doing, but it might not be for everybody. But yeah, I think based on what I know about it, it's a cool plugin. I'll leave it in the description. You can check it out. They do a good trial. And so yeah, man, I'm finna wrap this up. Thank you for watching this video. I'm Tim Keys. I'm out. Peace.